Welcome to This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan and he is Brian, and holy smokes, the Canadiens are off to the East Final after Alex Newhook once again plays the hero 2 series in a row now, but the game-winning goal, or the series-winning goal actually. Brian, I'll be honest, my notes, third period, overtime, non-existent. I was just nervously pacing. Everyone was clenched. More importantly, the team is now in the Eastern Final. 7 months ago, we would have never guessed this. What's the first thing that's coming to mind right now?
How the Montreal Canadiens are the antithesis to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right? Yeah.
Toronto Maple Leafs never got away with a relatively poor performance in a Game 7 in order to take that series, get on to the next round. The Habs have done it twice. Now, the Tampa Bay one was egregious as hell. The lowest amount of shots ever recorded for a winning team in a playoff game with 9. That was awful. Tonight, the Habs played way better than that game, but obviously that bar is not very high. I think that if Montreal and Buffalo play this same game with the same analytics, just different bounces, like different luck 10 times, Buffalo probably takes it 7 or 8. And that's how not close I think this margin is. Then again, if you factor in just what a god Jakob Dobes is, okay, I could see us winning the majority, because this really was Jakob Dobes' night, because after the Canadiens had the 2-goal lead, they dropped back on their heels, which I think I've been saying from the start of the series, you don't drop back on your heels against Buffalo. Anyway, my mind's all over the place. I don't know why I jumped into the negative shit right off the bat of like they didn't deserve it, but they got it anyway, and thank goodness for that. But let's just be real. They got away with one yet again. Again, not as egregious, right. But and we take those.
Yeah. And so let me say this. Alex Newhook is the hero along with Jakob Dobes. Dobes, incredible bounce back game. Like, I think he is the story by far. Some amazing saves he has in the third period and in overtime. Again, he not quite Superman in overtime, but there's a couple moments certainly in the third period where he's keeping the game either with a lead or tied. So he's the main guy today. They don't win the game without him. He's their first star. He's, I think, despite the ups and downs in this series, probably along with Lane Hudson is fighting for the best player or the best Hab in the series. So he is fantastic. Alex Newhook now, I believe that's 7 goals in the postseason. So 7 and 14. The clutch gene, like it's. I don't think it's an accident that one guy with a cup on the team is doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Because he sees like, oh, this is just the second round. That's fine. Like there's a level of like, I have literally done this before, not as like a main guy, but of like, I've been in this environment before. And now slowly, the whole team is being in this environment more and more. So that's great stuff. Where I'm going to push back on what I'm sure a lot of people like you mentioned, and I think there's some valor to it, about the Canadiens once again being outplayed in a Game 7. You mentioned it. It's nowhere near as egregious as Game 7 against Tampa. We all knew, like, I think this might change over the years, but the common wisdom for the Tampa series is the Habs got lucky in Game 7, but likely should have won it in 5 or 6. That's what I think most people will agree with on the Tampa series. For this one, for Game 7 here, I thought the first period, the Habs were the better team.
Yes.
And then Buffalo had to do it. And you and I were just talking about this before we started, where we were disagreeing a bit on like, yes, the Canadiens did sit back a little. It's also because Buffalo absolutely floors it on the forecheck. And it was the Habs were, now the Habs were not terrible in terms of getting the puck out of the zone, but Buffalo was more aggressive than you've ever seen them, or I've ever seen them. They had to be. You're down 2 goals in a Game 7. But Buffalo doesn't play like that when the game is tied. They only started doing that at 2-0. Second period, yes, they absolutely control the pace of play. It's another long change. There's a lot of shifts where the Canadiens can't get it going. And Buffalo gets their goal, makes it 2-1. And then the third period, it's kind of it's not as egregious, but it's kind of the same where Buffalo's in control. They're rolling. And then we're going to talk about it now. They won. It's okay. There's the non-call on, I believe it's Greenway, who Superman's into Jakob Dobes. They don't call it.
It was, I think it was 17, actually. Sorry, unimportant, but Zucker. I think it was Jason Zucker.
Was it? Okay, sorry, my bad. Again, everything's kind of
unimportant.
But the point is, that's definitely a penalty. They choose to not call it. I don't know why, because that was just, anyways. And then immediately afterwards, oh, you know what? It's because Greenway's in front of the net on the screening Dobes. That's what's,
and he's also an asshole. So it's natural to assume.
That's what I'm remembering.
If it's not Greenway, it's not Malenstein, then you're going, okay, I don't know who it is because those are the dicks.
And they're going to have a great tea time at 7:45 a.m. at their local golf course by Saturday.
Yes, dude.
So,
Hell
anyways,
yes.
okay, but the point is, like,
I love salty Jordan.
it'll come out every now and then. By the way, Nikita Kucherov still sucks. So
still sucks. Still golfing.
Still true. But what I noticed once it's 2-2, and again, it's how much of it's chicken and egg. How much of this is like Buffalo being like, we can kind of revert back to how we prefer to play, versus the Canadiens saying, oh, we literally need another goal now.
Yeah.
Because once it's tied, to me, the scale's balanced a little bit more. Probably still a bit more Buffalo. And I thought the overtime was rather even. There's one or two shifts right around the 10-minute ice cleaning break that gets a little dicey. But for the most part, I thought OT was rather balanced. So we are going to be told that the Canadiens were, sure, maybe they weren't the better team today, but I think score effect and a crucial refereeing decision severely affected the second period and the third period, and how we kind of think about it, like that 30-minute block basically of the whole second period and the first 10 minutes of the third. You take the other 40 plus minutes. I forget exactly how far we got into overtime. You take those other minutes, and I think it's way more balanced. And you'd assume that the home team would have a bit more possession, and that's what it was. So that's my take on it.
So,
but yeah,
that there's total validity to that, man. I grant you that score effect definitely affects things greatly when one team is chasing and the other is defending, and the team who's defending chooses to alter their style and go more defensively. My argument is that they just shouldn't have done that flat out. Like that was a poor decision. And some of that is owing to the Buffalo forecheck, which woke up and looked like Tampa's forecheck all of a sudden. And we saw how well Tampa did that against the Canadiens and how difficult it was for the Habs to contend with that. Especially guys like Mike Matheson with giveaways in the defensive zone and stuff. And, you know, our buddy Santi would not be happy if I didn't bring up his name negatively at least once on today's pod. So there you go, Santi. Hope you're happy. Shot meet shin, the Mike Matheson story. That's another one. But anyway, the forecheck was working beautifully for Buffalo, and it just pained me to see the Canadiens start out with a system that worked, revert to something that didn't work, and Buffalo do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Recognize that now we have to turn it on, and like you have to be able to defend a lead. I'm sorry. You can't chase all the time. The Habs are great at it. They're great at chasing. But you don't want to be in that position all the time because sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes you get boxed out and you just can't crawl back into a game. So that's my fear for this team, for this core, is that if you get used to being able to catch up all the time, if you get back on your heels, I don't know, man. I think you just keep playing what works for you. They won. Like we've done.
Yeah. This is totally fine. And they have won 8 playoff games and are in the Eastern Final. I'm going to keep saying that every 5 minutes because we have that context, but we're allowed to still. Like, what are we learning from this series? They have won 8 games. I think only if I'm trying to remember this correctly in my head, only 2 of those are they truly defending a lead and successfully defend a lead, right? There are now 3 overtime wins, and then there's 3 somewhat blowouts against Buffalo. So then there's game 5 against Tampa where they have the Texier goal and hold on 3-2. And that's the crazy 9 shots in the last 2 minutes by Tampa. And then there is game 7, of course, against Tampa Bay as well. So both those games where it's okay, they hang on for dear life, they successfully defend the lead. It's very difficult to do that. We actually did see Buffalo do that a couple times in this series. Game 1 and game 4, where Buffalo gets their lead, they shut it down and they weren't bothered too much. Again, another thing I noticed in Buffalo really in those first 2 periods, so they were still being pushed to the outsides a bunch. They were not getting too many grade A chances. I thought the Canadiens were really good defensively on the back check. Dobson had a huge pass breakup. Juraj Slafkovsky, who I think a lot of people have had questions about in these playoffs, and for good reason, had a terrific back check in the third period to break up a 3-on-2 and really level it out and kill that Buffalo trailer that they're so good at incorporating. There's always an extra guy flying in. So look, they are still trying to learn how to do all of this. I was frustrated and we didn't record after game 6. They did not have the killer instinct, right? There's 2 things you need to develop to be a Stanley Cup champion team-wise. The killer instinct, they don't have it yet. And that's fine.
No.
Again, argument can be made. Game 6 Tampa, they almost had it, but Andrei Vasilevsky went, Super Saiyan. And then the other one is successfully closing out a team in regulation and holding on to a lead. And so far, they have not been great at that. If we look at all these games, most of them involve them blowing the lead before they go to overtime. Very few of them is the Canadiens tying the game to force it to go to OT. Likely it's the other way around. And we saw this a bunch in the regular season. This is not news for us to watch. So from a concerning standpoint, that's where the issues still arise. But we know this is not. So I've mentioned this, like the historical precedence of like the young team on the up and up do something sometime in the first year or 2 or 3 years. The Chicago Blackhawks in 2009 make the playoffs for the first time. At this point, they have, I think, sophomore Patrick Kane, 3 years in, Jonathan Taves, Duncan Keith is now made onto the team, Brent Seabrook. Like they are starting to accumulate their guys. 2009, they make it to the conference final right away. They get trucked by the Red Wings, by the way, FYI. Little foreshadowing. They lose in 5 to the Wings in the West Final, but they are slowly learning. They win both their series in 6, so it's not quite as dramatic as the Canadiens, but it's a learning curve. And every extra series you get to pick up, they're getting at least 4 more hockey games now, which means this core is going to have at least 23 playoff games. And what's hit me before the game. They are learning lessons this season that I thought they would have to wait another year or 2 to learn. Right? We thought it'd be like, okay, that's competitive first round most likely is what they're going to do, and they get a little bit more of a taste. No, what they're learning is how to put the foot on the neck and, get that killer instinct. They're trying to learn how to get closing out in the third period without sitting too far back, right? There are some individual players, like some of the younger bottom 6 guys, like Zach Bolduc, who scored a huge goal tonight.
Massive game. Yeah, massive.
Figuring out how to play in the postseason. You have other guys, reasons related or not, are struggling to do that. And we can go with Slavkovsky or Caulfield, although I would argue Caulfield has figured out how to play. His game is just not as effective.
I'm not worried about Cole at all.
So that's that's hit me. Like they are learning lessons that I thought were reserved for 2027 and 2028. But now they're in a conference final. Now they are in the East final and they get to learn so much more. While also, by the way, there's 4 teams left and they're one of them. So we don't have to always talk about wins and lessons. I know it's going to be the biggest uphill climb against Carolina, but it doesn't mean there's not a chance.
No, I think that the Canadiens are certainly more of a threat to Carolina's sweep of the entire run until they hit just the brick wall that is the Colorado Avalanche.
Right.
We're way more damaging to them than Ottawa or Philly were. I think that's obvious. They've also had a stupid amount of rest. Their last game was on May 9th, so they almost get 2 weeks between, because obviously you start the second round prior to the first round ending.
Sure.
That makes sense. We'll cover the scheduling at a later date during our next grievances with the league segment, one of many. The fascinating thing about this upcoming series and just the Canadiens run, and I want to touch on a bunch of things that you just said because there was a lot of good stuff in there. But the first thing that comes to mind is the away record versus the home record for these two teams. So for Carolina, it's very easy. It's 4-0 and 4-0. That's all they needed. That's all they played. They won it all. The Habs at home, 2-4. On the road, 6-2.
Yeah.
After tonight's victory in Buffalo. Very impressive stuff. Now, is that the stress of being in your own building and that everybody's jumping up and down and yelling as soon as Caulfield even has 3 feet worth of space and so he can't get the puck? What he was getting upset about a little bit at the end of the season when he was trying to go for 50. Is it by chance? Who the hell knows? The nice part about that is that the Canadiens are great on the road. And that's something that some teams just never learn. Some teams never get to win a bunch of games outside of their own building. And it's something you have to be able to do to have lengthy playoff runs. It just is. So I love that. I love that we start the series low pressure against Carolina in Carolina. Try and split that or get both. Like you're starting on the road. You're starting with what you're basically where you've been winning 75% of your games so far in the postseason. So that is absolutely massive. Yeah, jump in. I see you want to.
So in terms of like, hey, what are they doing better all of a sudden? Postseason last year 0-3 on the road, and you just spelled out the road record. this is quantitative. They have learned something to do something better. They've become a really good road team. The power play is really good on the road. Like they have really figured stuff out on the road. Now, this road versus home discrepancy that we're seeing a lot with the young teams too. I'll posit you a theory, Brian. I'm wondering if it's because the bottom six, when you are on the road, you have a tendency to say, we need to simplify our game. We need to be way more direct with how we want to play and just not necessarily don't take chances. Because have you ever seen Lane Hudson? But kind of just be a bit more methodical with how you're going to approach it. Because, hey, this has got to be a good road game. What we learned about road games is like, don't let the crowd get into it. Be a bit more disciplined, stronger on the back check, harder on the forecheck, all the usual crap you would hear. When you're at home, I think your bottom six still tends to generally play like that. And I think it's like that's been unlocked for Zach Bolduc in this playoffs entirely. He's like, oh, I should just do that all the time. Those guys, but it's kind of the top six where I find where they forget that they should be simplifying their game. And that's like, it's a theory. None of this is substantiated by data, but I think there might be something there where it's like, hey, we're on the road. We got to play the road game. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say we got to play a good road game. But when you're at home, you think you can just like standardize it. And I think it becomes particularly egregious, that discrepancy in the postseason when the other team gives a damn every night and you're not playing the Seattle Kraken on a Saturday in Montreal. You're playing Buffalo again, or Tampa again, or Carolina again, which is me. I don't know. I've just been kind of like working through this. Like, what is going on here that they're now 2-4 at home and 6-2 on the road?
I think you're driving at something that's probably a part of the solution to this question. It just has to be. Because you're right. The consistency of the bottom six, the part that we were afraid would be the downfall of the Canadiens in this playoff run, has not been.
Yeah.
The bottom six is the reason they're still in it. Couple that with Dobes, couple that with Lane Hudson being absolutely incredible. Like you said before, there's a discussion between Dobes and Hudson. I don't think there is, regardless of how well Dobes has been playing, because Hudson is just incredible. Yeah. And that's nothing like Dobes has been amazing, but that's just how much better Hudson has been, which I want to get into the ice time for the defenseman today, and not for the reason you might be thinking, because there's a fascinating under 2 minutes Arbor Jacki game that we could get into, but like that one makes total sense to me. There was no reason to have him out there, so whatever. You know what? Let's do it now. I really want to do this now. Mike Matheson gets 24 minutes and 10 seconds. Caden Gooley gets 19 minutes and 5 seconds. Can we flip those, please?
Just for your reference, Brian, I sent you the wrong stat sheet. That is after 3 periods of hockey.
Oh, let's look at 4 periods of hockey. Is that? Oh, that's the new one.
Yeah, my bad.
All
that's
right,
on
let's
me.
see if it got worse.
It's getting late.
Let's see if it got worse. Caden Gooley, where are you, buddy? 22-15. Mike Matheson, 29-26. It does get worse. Holy crap. Can we flip those, please? Like yesterday? Can Caden Gooley be the guy with the second, or Dobson even? Like, can it be Hudson, Dobson, Gooley, Matheson, Carrier, Jacki under 2 minutes? Can it be that, please, Lord?
The extent to which all of us, I think, are like St. Louis has gotten like his patience with a lot of stuff has proven fruitful, and his understanding of when to plug certain guys. I mean, you saw Oliver Kapanen not play much, but he came in today. Whatever, close game. Him too. He kind of got stapled to the bench by the time we got to the middle of the second period. Same kind of went for Doc, by the way. Doc, we weren't seeing too much of, nor were we seeing Bolduc towards the very end of the game. Some of that you understand, but like this Matheson Carrier thing, like you're hoping this team is learning lessons, but the fact that is still a pairing to me is mind-boggling. There are no numbers to back up this pairing being effective. They are constantly on the ice for goals against, and I know part of it is because Marty wants to have the double of Dobes and Hudson together. I like just going back to Matheson, Dobson, where you started the year, and then putting Caden Gooley with Lane Hudson, and then you can shield, not necessarily need to shield Carrier, because at the end of the day, he is the assist on the series winning goal. So I can't complain too much about him. But like, there's just a tremendous overuse of that pairing. I still think those guys can be effective. And yes, it is Caden Gooley elevating a few more minutes, but that's the one, like the biggest, like Slavkovsky, I don't know what's going on here. 1 goal in 13 games. It's quite poor. You mentioned before, like, you're not worried about Caulfield. Me too. He had a much, much better series The puck just wasn't going in the net that much for him, but he still put up 3 goals in this series, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think he has kind of figured out how he can be effective in a more physical postseason. Slav, it's still huge. Slav's probably the biggest question mark right now of all the guys, and then it's but above them. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Slav is number 2. Mathis and Carrier is number 1. In terms of this is definitely a flashing red light that it doesn't seem like St. Louis anywhere close to changing up that pairing, but it's been problematic, and you would hope that it's Caden Gooley seeing a bit more time. Having said that, Gooley still had a couple bad pinches again today, which you would presume he's not going to do that as much with Lane Hudson if that were to be a pairing together, and he's But anyways, like,
I think that's definitely true. You notice in his game when he's out there with Hudson or somebody offensive, he's the D guy, and he knows that. He recognizes that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved Gooley's game tonight. I loved his game this whole series, the Tampa series. I think he's ready for something of a jump. That's all I'm saying. Furthermore, on this idea, is this just a byproduct of Reinbacher not being ready yet?
Yeah, no, that's true. Look, it's some things from the regular season I was wrong about. My whole thing all regular season was I was really worried about the bottom 6. Now, part of it is some of those guys were either A, coasting like Phil Danault, or B, eventually begrudgingly figuring out how to do it, like Zach Bolduc, like Kirby Dach. And then there's the Alex Texier group of like he was thrown into the top 6 a bunch, and it really wasn't there. So I don't feel terrible about that, having that take for the last 5 months, only for it to be solved the moment the playoffs start. The other one was the number 6 defenseman that we were all saying like, what's going on here? What are you doing? And it's still...
Well, Marty agrees with what's going on here because Arbor Jackeye played a minute 52 in 70 minutes of hockey-ish. So,
not great.
He agrees.
Yeah.
He agrees. We're missing a real 6th. And the physicality and fear of a fight is not needed in a game 7. At least it wasn't tonight. Sometimes maybe it is, but it definitely wasn't tonight. On Danault, I really want to get to this because absolutely. Look, we weren't wrong. You used the perfect word. He was coasting, but now he's figured it out. And what an amazing time to end a goal drought. He has not scored in the postseason yet. Game 7 opens the scoring. That is massive.
Yep.
So well done. Anderson creates that one, by the way. Another guy in the bottom 6 who's really been great. I am once again begging Josh Anderson to hit the net, please. Did he have 17 posts tonight, I think? Oh my God. But the Danault goal does not happen if he doesn't fight tooth and nail against Bowen Byram with one arm, fights him off with one arm, gets the puck around the boards with the other. They retain possession, and then Gooley gets his patented Game 7 assist, as he had 2 of them in that Tampa game, and Texier gets the assist as well. So absolutely, bottom 6 contributing like crazy, and then Habs go 1 for 1 on the power play. Buffalo goes 0 for 1 on the power play. Do we want to do the refs? Do we want to leave it aside? You mentioned it a little bit before at how abysmal that was. I will say they evened it out by the early whistle when Dobes had quote unquote covered the puck, and then the whistle goes and the Buffalo player bashes it in. Now, I will say he did have it relatively covered, so I don't think it was that much of a miss so much as just the timing of it was shitty, but
I thought that was a fine call.
That approach,
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, okay. I thought it approached 50-50 of sometimes that whistle doesn't go and Buffalo has a right to be a little pissed right now.
Yeah, I thought it was covered enough. And once it's covered, even if the whistle hasn't blown and you stab the glove with a stick, that shouldn't be a goal, period.
Sure. Okay.
So quickly on a couple guys, you mentioned Josh Anderson. The day he finally converts on a breakaway, I think we'll just throw the parade then. I think that's when we'll do it. And also the fact that he just lost his balance on, I think he had 2 of them today. One was kind of a bouncing puck and he couldn't really get it. But the one where he definitely had possession and then just flew into the net because he just fell, suboptimal.
Oh, the one where I jumped off of the couch and was like, well, he couldn't have fallen like that. That was obviously a hook. No. And then I see the replay and I go, oh, he fell. Yeah. That was bad. I hope your ribs are okay, buddy.
By the way, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, very strong game, I will say. He played quite well. It's only because Rasmus Dahlin helped the Habs so much on that game-winning goal. So this is the thing about Dahlin. You and I both have an affinity for him. We both really like him as a player. he was Buffalo's best guy these last 2 games to me by a mile. It wasn't close. It doesn't mean he wasn't a piece of shit to watch and root against for 2 weeks.
Yeah, of course.
Like we did the Tampa thing of like, okay, guys who were secretly really like to watch. I don't think either of us were. I know I wasn't shy about liking Darlene. But the fact that,
oh my God, Josh Doan, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've mentioned Josh Doan, but I love that player. But yeah, we haven't been shy about, who we liked.
So it's funny that on the game winning goal, if we could break it down a bit, it's a mixture of Demidov and Carey that forces the turnover. What's really Demidov forces Darlene to make a crappy pass to Tage Thompson, which Carey helps bust up right away. And then Carey brings it out, stretch past Newhook. And then it's Darlene who kind of definitely screens Luukkonen for, it's part of the reason the goal goes in. Rough break for Darlene. But he'll be all right. He'll survive.
His potential Norris victory, I think, will help him feel a little better about this. Though, like you could see it in his face. He doesn't give a shit about that. He wants the cup like most NHLers do. That was excellent to see the guy who, had we lost to them, may have become the evil figure of the year, the nemesis
I don't know.
for the Montreal Canadiens.
It's not.
You don't know if it's him?
Not budging off of Cooch. It's him. No one in
Dusharov is washed. Man.
No one in this series to me was that
egregious.
egregious. Like Zach Benson to me faded a little bit, certainly by game 7.
He did. That's very true.
So he wasn't that much of an annoyance. Malenstein isn't good enough to warrant that.
No, neither is Greenway.
Yeah, exactly. No one on the defensive side that I really cared. No, it's Darlene because of how
that's fair.
Good he is, could put up an argument, but the vitriol for Nikita Kucherov is eternal. Nick Suzuki, we have not brought up the captain yet. Nick played almost 30 minutes tonight. He's only behind Mike Matheson and Lane Hudson in total ice time. He had, I don't know, 6 passes from behind the net to set guys up today. Only 1 goes in, and that's the Bolduc goal, which, by the way, the power play was cooking, but they, typically power play once, the targets is usually about 1:20 of how long they want to be on the ice, So if the puck is cleared after 40 seconds, they'll usually get another rush in. If it's like 1:05, 1:10, and the puck gets cleared, they'll typically go off for a change, but usually it's an average of 70 to 80 seconds. So that's what happens with Buffalo. They clear the zone about 70, 75 seconds in. I'm pretty sure Caulfield gets off the ice and Demidov gets off the ice. I might be wrong with Demidov, but
No, I think you're right. I remember
Suzuki, Hudson are
still
like,
being there.
No, we're going right back in. And thank goodness they did, because it's, Hudson's shot that eventually goes through behind the net. Suzuki, eyes behind his head. He takes a quick peek and he just sees the bumpers wide open for Bolduc coming in from the bench. And boom, it's 2-0. So I wanted to shout out that moment because Suzuki had a lot of great moments behind the net tonight and guys couldn't convert. Cole Caulfield was really close. I feel like we've said that a ton, but he was fairly effective, but it was that specific moment that, it was great. But I thought it was cool to see that, because by the time they score on the power play, I want to say it's about 1:40, 1:45 in, that those 3 guys were like, no, we're not coming off the ice for this, which fair enough for Suzuki and Lane Hudson. I don't know if Juraj Slavkovsky has earned that, but it was great. Okay. Any other angle we're missing here?
But no, I just want to touch on that really quickly. Like there, 12 power play goals at this point. There's been, I don't even know how many. They said it on the broadcast at one point. I seem to remember the number 12. I'm tired. If I'm wrong, sorry. But what they did say was that every single one of those was the top unit. However many there have been that the Canadiens have scored power play goals, they've all been the top unit. This was the first that was not. And it still kind of was, because the majority of the players on there were the top unit. So that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. And that's part and parcel of why they're staying on so long, because they are the ones to be trusted to put the puck in the net when you have a power play. And you ain't getting many of them. So make the most of this one power play you got.
Yeah, I agreed. Okay. Well, you know what, Brian? I think that's probably, let's wrap it there. We don't need this one to go on for too long. It's late. The Habs are going to the East Final. That's all that really matters. Alex Newhook, Jakob Dobes, the heroes, Lane Hudson, probably the MVP of the series. I agree with your take from earlier. It's Dobes had some inconsistencies. Lane Hudson was their best player. Carolina's next. This is the Brian series right here. Carolina has been the team. your nemesis, truthfully, well, our eyeballs nemesis. And they have trucked through the 6th and 7th best teams. By the way, closing out, last thing, you don't have to get back on this. Canadiens finished with the 6th best record in the NHL. They were rewarded with playing the 5th best team in the league in the first round. After winning that, they were rewarded with playing the 4th best team in the second round. They're now playing the number 2 team in the third round. This is not a normal trajectory for the first 3 rounds, but they're going to get through it. Carolina, Thursday night. That's when we'll get back to. We're not even going to do previews. I don't think we have time for it. It's Carolina. They're going to take 1 billion shots on goal, and 70% of them won't be useful. Anyways, we'll wrap it there. Your Habs are in the East final. It's honestly crazy that they've done it. They've gone this far. We have at least 10 more days of hockey, and who knows how much further it can go. We'll wrap it there. You can follow us on social media at HabsLandPod. If you like what you hear, please leave a 5-star rating and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until the Eastern Conference Finals, go Habs.